This is a video of me and my sister having a conversation with my grandfather. He was in World War II and he served in the Navy on the USS Bunkerhill. And it's a first-hand account of his experience, and he talks about his life and after the war too. So I hope you enjoy
There's a
this.
little round one in the middle. When you're near the when you're near general quarters, they sound general quarters. They get ready for battle. So the big hatch is like a door closes, and then they have a little escape hatch in the middle. But I could hardly get through that. I'd have a mask on, a hood, and jackets. It was so cold in the North Pacific up when we were bombing Tokyo. It was so cold, I could hardly get through those hatches.
Was it the winter time, right? Was it in the winter?
Yeah.
So you saw like
December,
icebergs and
January
everything?
1945.
Yeah.
Very cold. Yeah, and rain.
Mm-hmm.
We went straight out. When I got aboard the carrier in December, Christmas 1944, we went straight to Tokyo and bombed Tokyo with 500-pound bombs. And even we had extra gasoline tanks that we put under the wings of the planes. And when that pilot emptied those tanks, they would drop the empty tanks and they would act like a bomb. They'd explode.
Oh, wow.
When a gasoline tank is empty, there's fumes in there.
Oh.
It's just like a bomb.
Never knew that.
Yeah, so they would drop those empty tanks too.
Wow, that's interesting. So where did you go, like, during your time in the Navy? Where did you go? What countries besides Japan?
Well, I was, I joined the Navy when I was 17 and went through boot camp at San Diego, came home on leave, and then went straight up to Bremerton and got aboard the aircraft carrier. And we came straight down to San Francisco and picked up our planes, went straight over and bombed Japan, Tokyo. Then we were in Iwo Jima with the battle of the Iwo Jima, the last two battles in the Pacific, Iwo Jima and Okinawa. I went back and forth. We kept going back and forth for those two battles.
Yeah.
And then at Okinawa, the Japanese last resort were kamikazes.
Oh.
So they sent out hundreds of kamikazes to dive bomb into our ships and sink them or hit them. So on May the 11th, 1945, in Task Force 58 in the 5th Fleet, we were the flagship. We had an admiral aboard our ship. That's the flagship of the whole task force, maybe 50 ships. And we were at Okinawa. 3 kamikazes come in. We shot down one, and the other 2 hit us. And on the way down, they released their 500-pound bombs. And one of the bombs, maybe both of them, were delayed action.
On the Bunkerhill.
On the Bunkerhill, you're right. So when delayed action was, when the bomb hits the wooden flight deck, it don't explode. It went right through the deck and out the side of the ship and exploded in the water. So we got hit with 2 kamikazes and 2 bombs in May the 11th, 10 o'clock in the morning, 1945. And we fought the fire for 5 hours. The captain, we had a cruiser come up next to us and helped us put out the fire with their hoses spraying over on us, you know. And there's so much water got on the ship, it started to list, started to tip. So the captain ordered a sharp turn, and they turned the ship, and the burning gasoline and oil went out the side of the ship and went into the sea, saved the ship.
That was good thinking on his part.
Oh yeah, saved the ship from sinking. So we didn't sink. We got the fire out.
Nice.
We came back to Honolulu and got some fuel, and then went straight back to Bremerton. Pulled in Puget Sound and put it in dry dock at Bremerton.
Mm.
and then moved us off the ship, gave us all 30-day leaves. That's when I met Joyce up at Big Bear in 1945. I was home on what they called a survivor's leave, 30-day leave.
Mm-hmm.
And she was staying at Big Bear and I was staying at Arrowhead, and we had a speedboat. So I went up and got her and brought her down to Arrowhead. We had a speedboat ride.
Wow.
That was in the summer of,
And you fell in love.
summer of 45.
Summer of love.
Summer of love.
Huh.
After war.
And then the war was over. In
after the war.
August 1945, the Japanese finally surrendered, and they signed the surrender on the Big Mo, the Missouri, the battleship in Tokyo Bay. But we didn't trust the Japanese because, the sneak attack on Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
So when they were signing this armistice and surrender, we had ships waiting right around, ready to attack them if they pulled anything funny.
Yeah, of course.
So we were ready then, but they didn't. They surrendered. The people wanted to surrender, but the Emperor of Japan, he didn't want to surrender.
Yeah, that's always the case, right?
Yeah, that's the case. That they tell them. Anyway, that happened.
Yeah.
And then, of course, those two bombs that ended the war, Nagasaki atom bomb and Hiroshima. Hiroshima, I think, was the first, wasn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the atom bomb going back to like July or August of 45 is when they put the atom bomb they sent it over there on a cruiser, and they kept it a secret. You know all this, right?
Well, yeah, but you're telling it. Yeah.
We like your rendition.
It's yeah.
You're
They kept
articulate.
it secret, so nobody knew that the atom bomb was going over there to drop it on Japan. Even the Navy, they kept it secret.
Yeah.
So after they delivered the atom bomb, that cruiser got hit and sunk. And those men were in the water like 48, 72 hours. And nobody knew they were there because it was all secret, see.
See, we didn't know that part.
Yeah. They were in the water. A lot of them got eaten by sharks.
It was warm water, right?
I'm not sure. I think so. Because I was at some little islands where we would go swimming, like Guam, Saipan, Ulithi. I was at some of those islands before and during the last months of the war.
Mm.
I was only in Hawaii, Midway, not the Battle of Midway, but after Midway, and Guam. We would stop at Guam to refuel all the time. There was hardly nothing on Guam.
I think they're still doing that.
Probably.
Guam is still a main,
military, yeah.
There's probably, I don't know, let's see. I remember being at Guam after the war was even over, and they had snipers up in the jungle that would shoot their rifles and shoot some of the sailors down in the harbor.
Wow.
Every once in a while, we get a sniper would be shooting. He'd be hiding in the jungle after the war was over.
While you're swimming?
Yeah.
And did anyone die?
Oh yeah.
This is after the war.
So you're
After
just
the war was
frolicking
over.
around,
Well,
just swimming around, minding your own business.
We would take a small
Right.
what we call them LCVP, landing craft vehicle personnel, and we would take them over to get the mail and bring it back and distribute it aboard. So when we would do that, there would be snipers waiting. So when we came close to the shore, they'd shoot at us.
Mm.
How many do you think you lost
You mean on the aircraft carrier?
when
we got-
snipers started shooting at you?
Not many, maybe a dozen, not
Okay.
more than a dozen.
So how many men though did you lose on the carrier?
Almost 400.
Dang. And how many were on the carrier?
about 2,800, a little under 3,000, including the pilots. We had 90 planes, prop-driven planes, fighting planes and dive bombers. We had maybe three or four different kinds of small planes with a propeller.
That's
aboard.
a lot of people.
Yeah, some of my buddies that worked down below decks, I wouldn't even see them for maybe a week, only a chow or something,
Yeah.
because I was working up on the flight deck.
Yeah. Wow. That's
So you were on the flight deck watching them land on those hooks.
He was a barrier.
But you know the story of the morning that we got hit with the kamikazes. I've told you that, but you may have forgotten. I was at sick bay.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the boil on my left thigh. I got up that morning and went to sick bay, and he treated that boil. I never had one before or after. That boil saved my life.
Huh.
Could easily have saved my life.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Right?
So you were getting treated, and then it started the bombing. The kamikazes started coming out.
I had just been on my way back to my quarters up forward, way forward.
And you would have been on the flight deck when the kamikazes hit.
Right. If I hadn't been to sick bay, I would have been up there.
That boil saved you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be here.
And then you've never had it again.
Never had it again or before.
That's crazy.
That's like God gave me that boil to save my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, here, I'm going to move you. It's going to be painful.
Yeah.
But I'm going to move you below deck.
Yeah.
And you're going to get treated, and you're going to live through this. And then you probably had to help a lot of people, didn't you?
The hand of intervention.
Yeah, because like I said,
divine hand.
We burned for 5 hours. It took us 5 hours to get the fire out. And the men that were burned alive and dead, we had to drag them forward on the flight deck and lined them up and covered them up with canvas.
Yeah, you were talking about like there was smoke inhalation, how you would find them in some of the...
Oh, yeah.
They were trying to hide from the
next day, we would find them because they were trying to get away from the flames, and they would crawl into spaces and they would kill them, see? The smoke would kill them, and we'd find them 2 or 3 days later.
And you would smell them first.
And then we would smell them, yeah. Because a dead body will start to smell after 24 hours.
Especially in the moisture above sea.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So we limped back to Pearl Harbor and got fuel, like I say, went back to Bremerton.
Wow.
Yeah, it was I'm surprised that I remember it, but it was so tragic.
Yeah.
I do remember it. Yeah. Even the details.
Do you ever have like a PTSD experience?
Did you have dreams afterwards?
Yeah, but usually the funny dreams. There weren't serious dreams about the battles.
That's good.
Because I was only 18, 17. I had my 18th birthday when I was in the Navy. I joined when I was 17 in the summer.
Yeah. And
then I had a birthday in October when I was 18. In what year? 44. 26 to 44 is 18, isn't it?
26.
26 to 44.
We need Ellie here.
Yeah, we need Ellie.
What do you think is the most fun experience you had on that Bunkerhill?
The most what?
The most fun time. Yeah, the most fun that you ever had on that Bunkerhill.
Well, I really didn't have much fun. It was probably laughing at this one guy that would jump when general quarters would sound. Bong, 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 bong. He would jump out of his bunk in his skivvies, put on his helmet, and look for his rifle. And he didn't even have a rifle. We didn't have rifles. You're not going to stand there with a rifle and try to shoot down a plane.
You can't even reach a plane.
You got to have a machine gun, or we had 5-inch cannons, 5 inches in diameter. We had a few of those aboard ship that would shoot like a 5-inch would shoot like from here down to Camp Pendleton, 5 or 10 miles. But on the battleships and cruisers, they had 14 and 16-inch guns that would shoot from here to Oceanside. 20 miles that would shoot. So they could lay off the island 20 miles. They couldn't even see the island that they were shooting at with a 16-inch cannon on a battleship. Now, up at San Pedro, they have a battleship, the Iowa, the USS Iowa. It's a battleship, and it's tied up at San Pedro at the dock, like the Queen Mary's up there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go aboard it, and you can see these big cannons. And the walls on the gun turrets are this thick. So a bomb can explode and it won't even bother them. Just solid steel that thick. VJ Day. That's they call, you've heard VJ Day, the day that the surrender was signed.
Yeah.
I was staying at Big Bear with Joyce and her mother and her sister and her husband. And we got up that morning, and her mother, Laura, she made us waffles, homemade waffles in an old-fashioned cast iron waffle iron that you sit on a wood-burning stove. You pour the batter in, this great big heavy waffle iron raises up, and then you lift it and turn it over. And we ate waffles for like 3 hours, my brother-in-law and me.
Nice.
And then I came down to the gas station to get gas. Gasoline was rationed. You could only allowed to buy 3 gallons. And I pulled in the gas station, and the guy says, I can fill you up, the war's over. So I got a tank full of gas.
That's cool.
The very next morning. Ruth tells me that she's a little younger than me. She was born in 32. And on VJ Day, she was in downtown Los Angeles. And a sailor grabbed her and kissed her. And she remembers it because she was born in 32 to 40 to 45. See, she was just a teenager.
He was so happy to be out.
Yeah, he was so happy the war was over. Guys,
But it's not that famous photo in New York where you see them kissing.
That's a sailor grabbing a girl, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this one Ruth was in L.A.
I'm sure it's happening all over.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Right. Then after that leave, I reported back to San Pedro, and they put me aboard a different ship, APA number 60, which is an attack transport personnel. And we went over and brought back people, nurses and sailors and soldiers, bringing them back from the war. We did that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And it was so slow. That APA top speed was like 8 knots, which is only about 10 miles an hour.
Oh my
Can you
gosh.
imagine coming home from Guam?
Why? Because it was so clunky or something?
Yeah, it was just a slow ship. The aircraft carrier was fast.
Yeah.
It would go almost 40 miles an hour, 35 knots. But the APA was sluggish and slow. Took us 3 weeks to come home from Guam. 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then after that, they were going to have the A-bomb test at Bikini in the Pacific. And this was in probably early 46. And my ship was scheduled to be in that and be blown up. So they transferred me off, put me on a PT, which is a patrol craft, a small ship, not much bigger than this coach. And that's what I came back to San Pedro on, to be discharged, June the 1st, 1946. And Joyce came down to San Pedro. I told her I was coming in. I think it was in May. Well, in the summer of 46. She came down and was waiting for me to come in. And we got as far as, I got on the ship at Pearl Harbor, and we got as far as Catalina, and our engines quit on that little patrol craft. It was
Yeah.
like a, not too much bigger than a DE, which is a destroyer escort.
Yeah.
Very small ship. And we drifted around Catalina all night. So Joyce went home. I came in the next day. And then I was discharged on June 1st, 1946. And we got married on August the 11th, 1946.
Wow. So it was love at first sight.
Where did you get married?
We got married at St. Elizabeth's Catholic Church in Altadena, which is just above Pasadena.
So why were they gonna, you were saying they were gonna blow up your Bunkerhill ship?
Well, the Japanese, their last attempt to stay in the war, battle us,
Uh-huh.
was kamikazes. They had hundreds of pilots that volunteered to kill themselves just to blow up our ships. So all of our ships got hit from kamikazes. Almost all of them, 90% of them got kamikazed. Some of them sank, some didn't. Very few, only 1 or 2 aircraft carriers sank. But a lot of destroyers, cruisers, and they sank. They hit them so bad, they damaged them, that they sank. But now, to show you what we used to call them Japs. You can't do that anymore, Japanese. To show you how bitter they were and how cruel they were.
Determined.
We would shoot down an enemy plane, a Japanese Zero, their fighter plane. The pilot would be at sea, jumping out, and it survived at sea with a life raft or something. And we would send our men out to pick him up, and he'd have a knife hidden on him, trying to kill the guys picking him up.
Oh gosh.
We even had that happen a couple of times.
To rescue him.
The 2 Marines would go out in a small boat to pick him up, and he would try to kill him.
Wow.
They were that terrible. They were terrible people.
So they were trained.
They were trained to
just
do that. Yeah.
Kill or die.
Yeah.
They're almost,
He'd have a knife hidden on him. See, those pilots, they'd have knives hidden on them.
yeah. So they're almost like modern day samurais.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And the women, the way they treated the women, they had movies about Japanese prison camps for women only. And one movie I remember, this was a movie, the ladies were prisoners and they were singing. They could all sing in a chorus. And that struck a bell with the Japanese soldiers, the military. When they heard that music, that softened them up a little bit. And they got more tender-hearted, and they treated them a little bit better. Because they were actually treating them so bad and starving them that they would die. They would make them stand out in the sun for 24 hours until they fell over. They were terrible at that time.
Yeah.
And the emperor, he taught them to be like that. Thank God, it's a different country now.
Yes.
So which women were in those camps?
Well, they would have been nurses, military women that were in the Navy, waves, they called them military sailors, they called them waves. And the ones that were in the Army and the Air Force were called WACs, waves and racks, women soldiers.
Waves and wax.
Yeah, WACs and waves.
Wow, this is something I never
You
knew
never
about.
heard that probably,
I've
huh?
heard wave,
Waves were the
but
sailors.
but I haven't heard whack.
WACs were the
Whack.
Army and Marine women. Yeah.
Wow.
Wax.
Terrible name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't believe that.
And of course, you've seen a lot of the movies
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah,
I haven't watched the movies with the women being mistreated.
I've read some stuff, but yeah, they were not nice anywhere they went.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a lot of movies about the war. I remember one, but these two guys, it's very vague. I can't remember the details, but they had stolen a bicycle over there in Okinawa, and the Japanese found out that, and they were also dealing in dope.
Oh gosh.
So the Japanese didn't like that, and the Koreans, they didn't like anybody over there dealing in dope. So they got a hold of these two guys and put them in jail. Well, they released one of them. The other one they tried, and they found him guilty, and they were going to execute him. Execution, yeah, firing squad.
Yeah.
12 guys lined up with rifles, and they all shoot one man. So they don't know who killed him, see?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know whose bullet killed him. Well, they had this one guy in prison, and they were going to execute him. But his buddy that was with him was over here in USA. So they got him to go over there. He went over to try to save him. This was a movie. I don't know if it was true or not.
Mm-hmm.
And they said if they lied, actually. They said, if you come over here, we won't execute your buddy. He got over there, and they did execute him anyway, because there was a leak to the media about it, and they didn't want the media to know about it.
Oh.
That was all in a movie. It was a good movie. From sick bay up to the forward on the ship to the flight deck. And I bumped my head on a hatch, jumping through the hatch, and it started bleeding down my forehead. They thought I got injured by a piece of shrapnel. They wanted to give me a Purple Heart. And I said, I didn't get injured by shrapnel. I bumped my head going through the hatch.
Do you have a scar?
No, it just bumped. Well, I don't know. I don't think so. It bumped enough that the blood came down my forehead. And I could have said, yeah, I got hit by shrapnel. I got a Purple Heart, but I didn't want to lie.
Yeah.
Because I knew I did it to myself running.
Yeah, because the Purple Heart, then good. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's honorable. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe you're too tall, and that's why you bumped your head. You're
Maybe.
you're tall, so.
I
Yeah.
used to be 6 feet, but now I'm shrinking. Now I'm only about 5'10" and a half.
You
Really? I
still-
thought you were
You still
6'1".
seem very tall.
I was only barely 6 feet.